be conducted based on changes that occurred last year in statutes. I'm going to keep this probably till like 10:20. I don't want to keep everybody, if that's all right, Mr. Chair. Give it to 20 after, a few more minutes.
Will commence.
Quorum.
Hola, buenos días, Susana. ¿Puedes estar a la reunión hoy o no? Ya está, ok. Ay, no te había visto. No, hablamos, ok. Susana, sí.
She's coming? Oh, Suzanne. Yeah, yeah, she's already.
I'm here.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
All right, while we're giving it one more minute, I just want to share why a picture, which I don't think is business, but just relates to what I was hoping we were going to talk about is vaping. And so our vaping, and why this topic, and looks like we're going to probably have to continue it, if all is so important. One, our numbers are jumping up incredibly high as the number of students who are found with vape-related materials. In addition, this is a picture of a lift station that was done this week that was shutting down and getting stuck at one of our high schools. And if you can see here, the probably well over 100, 200 vapes that are getting being used in the schools. In addition, we have numerous restrooms that are being plugged up. The students are flushing vapes down the toilets. Boca High, for example, had one like 150. This particular lift station is Palm Beach Central, just this week. So we're working on a number of strategies that we can't really discuss now because we don't have a quorum, but provide with you all at a later date. In addition, I know there's questions regarding legislative updates. We can do more of that also. In our August meeting, we are still going through a lot of it. One of our members who's not here, Mariana Blanco, did meet with our department of Multicultural and Migrant Education, who went over a lot of what they're doing regarding Bill 1718 that's really impacting our undocumented families. So, but we'll provide those updates again also in August. So I'm not going to take really too many questions, only because we don't have a quorum, but I'll take a couple quick, as long as it doesn't involve business. And Ms. Morgan, if you can keep me honest, not breaking any board policy. Ms. Whitbeck, and then Ms. Kenny.
Yeah, it was about the legislative update, and I don't know exactly what the rules are, so if I overstep also, since there's no quorum, but I just was in a meeting yesterday and, heard that there's so many parents who are not wanting to take their kids to school right now or next year or even to summer programs because they're afraid. So these steps that you're taking, is that something that, are we moving quickly on this so that we
Yes.
can at least start alleviating the fear within the parents?
Yes, absolutely.
We're seeing a lot of it.
Yep, it's top priority for us.
And we won't have another meeting till August, where will information be sent out to us ahead of time so that we can share it with our communities?
This committee does not meet in July, so
Right.
our next meeting will be in August.
So there's nothing that can be shared with us ahead of time so that we can start sharing with our families?
I mean, the bill does not directly affect schools. Ours is making sure that parents know that they feel welcome and we want them in our schools. And that we're working on some communication for our principals to make sure that they're reiterating that message for our July meeting with principals. So if there's anything that relates to this committee, I'll definitely send it out ahead of time.
I attended a meeting with the PBSO, the sheriff's office, and the sheriff was very clear and out. They are not here to enforce that type of regulation. They don't work for ICE. They don't work for migration. So families can feel safe because they are not going to be looking at that area.
So Mr. Reed just joined us, and now we do have a quorum. So that's good. So Ms. Kenny, can you hold off then on that? And we'll go ahead and do roll. Okay. You might have to sign off and on because I couldn't hear you. I heard you earlier, though. So, all right, so you want to call the meeting over?
Yeah. We're going to call the meeting to order, and we'd like to start with a roll call.
And just know if anybody leaves the meeting, we will have to suspend because we're just at quorum. So if anybody leaves, just please let us know. I'll be watching because we will have to stop.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. Okay, adoptive family, Jessica Pagan.
She said, I read her lips.
Here?
She said, here.
Okay.
I cannot hear
You're
you.
muted.
Okay, Best Foot Forward, Debbie Ellman. Debbie is here too.
1 second. Did the volume get turned on? Because I can't hear anybody.
Their mics are all off.
No, they turned them on. And
But still, we cannot hear them. You see, Jessica's.
we're having a
speaking,
tech issue here. Can't- All right, now, all
Okay.
right, they fixed it here. We're good. Okay.
Okay, adoptive family, Jessica Pagan. Pagan.
Hold on, Jessica, present.
Okay. Best Foot Forward, Debbie Ellman.
Presence.
Black Chamber of Commerce, Palm Beach County. CARD at FAU, Sabrina DeGoges. CARD at FAU, Jack Scott. Coalition for Black Student Achievement, Dr. Deborah Johnson Robinson.
Present.
Coalition for Black Student Achievement, Deborah Stewart. I know Deborah's been messaging me trying to get on. I don't know. I can't seem to get her on, but she's trying. Okay. Compass, Amanda Canetti. Compass, Rex Barnes.
Present.
Connect to Greatness, Dr. Cassandra Corbin Thaddeus. Connect to Greatness, Andre Thaddeus. District ESC Advisory Committee, Kimberly Spiro.
Present online.
Okay, District ESC Advisory Committee, Carla Donaldson. Division of Blind Services, Cesar Vigo.
Present.
Economic Council of Palm Beach County, Craig McKenzie. El Sol Jupiter, Suzanne Whitbeck.
I'm present, but I have to step out at 11:30.
Okay. Florida Hispanic American Chamber of Commerce, Juan Pagan.
Presente.
Florida Hispanic American Chamber of Commerce, Evelyn Vargas. For the Children, Reggie Durandis. Gold Coast Down Syndrome, Sue Davis Killian. Guatemalan Mayan Center, Mariana Blanco. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce of Palm Beach County, Maria Antunia. Hispanic Education Coalition of Palm Beach County, Dr. Gabriela Mendez. NAACP, Diedrich Strand.
Present, and that's pronounced strong.
Strawn.
Strong.
Yes.
Okay. Palm Beach County Council of PTAs, Charmin Postal.
Charmaine, present.
Palm Beach County of PTAs, Marcus Brown.
Present online.
Palm Beach County Human Rights Council, Emmy Kinney.
Present.
Tri-City Education Committee, Mary Evans. Tri-City Education Committee, Eddie Rhodes. Volunteer Association of America, Colson Zelmar. And Urban League of Palm Beach County, Terrence Reed.
Present.
All right. Okay.
Did you hear?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, also we take the opportunity to welcome Mr. Ferguson. Welcome to the meeting. Thank you.
Morning.
We would like to take a motion to approval of the minutes. All in favor?
But we need a,
Second.
who motion?
Kimberly.
No, so you made the motion? We need a second.
Okay, I'll make the motion.
I second.
Thank you. Any discussions? Hearing none, all approve. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Mr. Strong, you have your hand is raised.
I was just raising my hand to show approval.
Oh, gotcha.
Thank you. Next step, let's do any public comments. 2 minutes. Don't be all shy.
I don't see anyone. No
No.
one's here.
So we move on. Unfinished businesses. Ms. Kimberly?
Okay. The ad hoc subcommittee on special projects has been working on taking Dr. Thaddeus's work and developing it into suggestions for the full committee to consider to recommend to the board. We have been working through Dr. Thaddeus's recommendations, and I think it's best if we report back in August. We will continue meeting over the summer to try to come up with those recommendations in, a final form.
And could you just provide context for those who may not have seen the presentation?
Oh, I'm sorry. Dr. Thaddeus did a presentation on her doctoral thesis, and that was studying the success of Black Black male students. And she interviewed a number of them and analyzed what helped them to succeed and how can we apply those lessons to many other Black male students who maybe haven't had the opportunity but have the ability to succeed. And so we are looking at all the recommendations that she gained from talking to all of the students and seeing if we can apply them to schools across the district.
Great.
Anyone on the subcommittee, correct me or add if you need to.
Comments? Questions?
Yes, just a quick add-on to what Kimberly shared. The perspective is that these Black male students are already achieving high academic success. So it's not that they have the potential to; it's that they already are achieving high academic success.
I'm sorry, I meant those are, and we're trying to help those who have the potential, trying to reach all of them.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comment, question? Next item. Update from the Chief of Equity and Wellness, Mr. Othman.
Okay, and I was discussing some of this earlier. So again, House Bill 1718, as it affects our undocumented families. If you haven't seen that bill, I strongly suggest you look at it for context of being a part of this committee. But there are essentially numerous consequences for employers. And I think what we've been hearing at the school district in particular, that those who employ individuals who are undocumented face potential criminal charges and financial penalties. There's also implications for hospitals, and thus providing a lot of unrest for these families. And we are hearing more cases of families moving out of the state of Florida. There's penalties if anybody were to transport undocumented individuals into the state of Florida, including arrest. So pretty serious. You've probably seen some of the headlines and media coverage on this particular bill. So there's a lot of unknowns as far as how that's going to affect how many families actually do leave. We did work with Mariano Blanco, who presented to the department, as well as we are putting together some messaging, some toolkits for our principals throughout the summer to let them know that, to reiterate that we don't check documentation status. That's not our role. There's nothing in the legislation that requires us to do any type of reporting, as it does for some other agencies, so that we will create a safe place, as we always do for our students, so that they don't have to worry. So we're going to continue to get that message out. Obviously, it's very difficult and challenging when it comes to an employment status. Families do need to obviously put a roof over their head. So that's up on that. Ms. Whitbeck?
Yeah, just regarding the messaging, one of the things that came up yesterday, I forgot to mention earlier, was that, the schools have police officers, and some of the parents are afraid because they don't understand that the police officer is there to keep their students safe, that the police officer there is not to try to figure out who's without documents. So I don't know if there's just a way to incorporate some of that into the messaging that, we do have police officers on school, but it's there to, for other reasons, not to monitor immigration.
Yes, that's a good point. So we will, I'm writing that down. Thank you for that feedback.
Thank you.
As it relates to other legislation, there was plenty to go around for everybody in the school district. So if you've been following it, we are working through that. I know, Ms. Kenny, you talked about how some of this will affect the LGBTQ community. I know that staff are currently working through those particular statutes and how it may or may not change any direction that we take as a district. I don't, based on preliminary conversations, we don't see a lot of changes happening, more of messaging and clarity for students, so that everybody clearly understands what we can do by statute and what we can't as a school district. So I'll just give one example. Some of you may or may not have heard this, but, and this is not just for students, it's for everyone, that you may only use a restroom designated, if it's a group type bathroom, that based on your sex at birth, and there's potential criminal penalties. There's a process of first ask someone to leave. So it's just making sure people are clear. We're not looking to obviously cause more issues that we need to for our students. Ms. Kenny?
Thanks. I was just wondering if the LGBTQ student support guide will be, like, when that will be edited and made available, so that I can have something to send to the people who are asking me questions about where this is all going to land.
Yeah, Mr. Stewart's in the room as well. He was working on it this weekly, I think, with others in the district, with our legal team, superintendent. It's supposed to be out hopefully by July 1st is the projected date, if all goes well.
Sorry, you said July 1st? Or
That's our projected date, so I'm not going to make that, but they have been working on that. And we've had meetings with other organizations to help us see what other school districts are doing as well that have been approved by the state. So.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and then also what I'm going to send out over the summer, and messaging not only about the topic we're about to get into, but also messaging, and I talked about this last year regarding weapons on campuses, and we need a lot of help through your organizations and agencies to really help us message that any type of weapon that includes that we see on our campuses are tasers, knives, we've had a few firearms, but do result in criminal charges, results in expulsions, serious consequences, bringing these onto school campus. So really need your help in marketing and letting your communities and your circle of influence to let them know not to bring these on campuses. We hear a lot often, and we're trying to message also to those students who, the biggest concern that our board has, as well as staff, those students are bringing tasers because they need it for safety on their way or home from school or from a place of employment if they're working. To please reach out to school administration and or school police so that we can help try to problem solve some of the challenges that they may face outside of the school grounds. So really need your help for that throughout the summer to let your communities know. We've got to really do a better job on that. And then another huge epidemic, the other pieces I'll be sending to you around health, authorization for health services. We're working with the Department of Health to get clarification, but as you know, last year, it appears that we still have to get the consent for health services. So we do need to, our numbers did go up a lot throughout the year, but we still need to to keep on that and to remind families to make sure they provide consent. We'll be sending out at the beginning of the year registration forms, which is located on those particular forms. Kimberly?
Hi. When you were talking about problem solving about students bringing weapons to school, in a lot of cases, the school police officers have their office at the front. Is there any way the kids come in the door and check them in with the school police and then pick them up at the end of the day?
So
I know, until we fix whatever is going on in there, outside, because it takes a long time. I can tell you, the kids with disabilities, they get bullied. It takes a long time to resolve it. So in the meantime, if they feel it's necessary, I know it's not on campus, but like drop it off at the front. I'm just wondering if that would work.
we've had some informal conversations. There's a lot of legalities around that, but nothing formal at this time.
All right.
But
I was just.
I understand perspective, yeah. An amnesty type tax.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And then, I'm just gonna go ahead and roll into the new business.
Yep, the new business. We're going to have addressing the vaping epidemic. We'd like to have Ms. Josephine Lomine and Jacques Goza. Please take the floor.
So these two ladies that will be presenting, so our school district is in receipt of a Department of Health grant to provide online tobacco courses for adults for credit, but also for students as a form of alternative to suspension. So they're well-versed into this space around vaping. And I think you all saw the picture that I shared regarding the lift station. Lift station, essentially part of the plumbing system that pumps wastewater out. These students are, by the hundreds on a regular basis, are flushing these down toilets. Our numbers of students who are actually caught are continuously going up as a school district. So, and these are the ones that that are caught. As you may or may not know, our district was part of a lawsuit suing Juul Company. We were one of the bellwether school districts, so we are receiving a substantial amount of funds from the settlement of that particular lawsuit. So some of these funds we want to use to help address this particular issue in different ways. I put together a task force of principals, district staff. So we're looking at a number of initiatives to help address this, but we want to first educate you all. I think the biggest myth that's out there before they start is probably that people think it's not harming us, that it's not the same as cigarettes. And that can't be anything further from the truth, and we're going to have a real health epidemic probably in a number of years when we see the effects of what these kids are doing to their bodies. So we really need everybody's help here. So I'm sorry, ladies, I'll let you go ahead. You can share. You're going to share it from over there? Okay.
Oswald in the Division of Equity and Inclusion Committee for allowing us to speak today. We are the Tobacco Prevention Program. My name is Jakira Gosa, and we have Josephine Louis-May. We are specialists with the Department of Safe Schools. As Mr. Oswald mentioned, we run a statewide program that focuses on vaping and tobacco-free education. And we are very excited to attempt to educate the entire committee today on why vaping is an epidemic for Palm Beach County. In the year of 2018, the Surgeon General, Dr. Jerome Adams, under President Obama, declared e-cigarette use among youth as an epidemic. The recent surge in e-cigarette use among youth is a great cause for concern, And you'll see why in just a little bit. We're going to play a very quick video for you. We'd like for you to turn up your volume if you can't hear us already pretty loudly, as what you're getting ready to watch is very impactful for our schools and communities.
Okay, all right. What kind of meeting? Said I don't want to talk about it. Wait. Trey, what are you doing? Hey. Yes! Yes! Wait, what is going on with you? Get out! Andy! Get out of my room! Get out!
Andy.
What?
You're not lying. I didn't say anything. Yes, you did. No, you didn't.
The reason that we found this video to be very impactful in a short amount of time is it speaks to what parents see. It speaks to how students feel. A lot of our students in their feedback within our courses express the desire to quit smoking, to quit vaping, but feel that they just can't. Their body is craving it. They are officially addicted. And what that looks like in our schools are them flushing vapes down the drain, and them having outbursts in classrooms and fights on campus that we don't necessarily attribute to what's going on within their body because of what they're consuming. So our aim today is to share with you a bit of data to show you how we got here, and also for you to glean with what we can do as a community to help address this epidemic.
So this is a graph showing the onset of the vaping epidemic. This is a national data graph. And the term epidemic, if you don't already know, is used to describe a widespread occurrence of an infectious disease or a health-related behavior in a community or population within a short amount of time. So as we can see here, the dotted lines indicate any tobacco product use in middle school, and the dark black ones indicate the e-cigarette use in high school. And as you can see towards the year 2015, 16, 17, 18, you see that dramatic rise. And that coincides, as Kira said, to the epidemic and the use of Juul when that came onto the scene and the other forms of e-cigarettes. We do know that we are looking at this from a national lens right now, but we're going to go into what it looks like for our Florida and Palm Beach County students. So as you can see, these two graphs were collected by the Florida Youth Tobacco Survey, which is a survey pushed out by the Florida Department of Health, and this is from year 2022. So with the Florida Youth Tobacco Survey, they collect data from the whole state, every single year, and county-specific data every other year. So we will not get any numbers for Palm Beach County in 2023. So you can see the graph on the left is broken down into middle and high school students who have ever used a electronic vapor product, what the Department of Health calls e-cigarettes or vapes, shortened by us to EVPs. And as you can see, Palm Beach County is under the state average, and on the left or the right, you can see that this is broken down by male and female students, and you can see that our female students are using EVPs at a higher rate in both the state level and the Palm Beach County level. Right here is some more data pulled from the Florida Youth Tobacco Survey, and as you can see, we are in Palm Beach County outpacing the state average in our ninth grade class or ninth grade students. They are using EVPs at a higher rate or a higher level than the state average. And on our other graph, you can see this is broken down by our ethnicity, race. And one thing I want to bring everyone's attention to is over the state average, you can see that our students are outpacing. For our non-Hispanic Black, and our Hispanic students are a little bit higher for the state. So this data was collected by our team, the Palm Beach Tobacco Prevention Team. This data, when we have our students register for our courses, we do ask for some demographic data that is required by the Department of Health. And this is all anonymous. We do not share any other information besides the overall picture. And as you can see, our numbers look very similar to those of the state. And you can see here that our 8th and 9th grade students in both 2022 and so far in 2023 are using EVPs at a higher rate, and also all forms of tobacco as well. Again, this is data collected by our team, and this is FY22 and FY23 data. Again, you can see our Hispanic students are outpacing all of our other students in the county for tobacco use. And this was collected for 2023 in April of this year. So this data will change by the end of the year when we go back and analyze our data. Our last piece of data from our Palm Beach County view is the trends in flavor. So we're going to go through flavors a little bit later in their presentation, but as you can see for both years that we collected data, you can see that fruit flavors are one of our highest flavor uses in Palm Beach County, and we're going to go through that later of why that is. And again, tobacco flavor is our second highest use.
All right, so back to some new research within nationwide data. About 3 million middle and high school students currently use any tobacco product that is not restricted to EVPs. That's about 16.5% of high school students and 4.5% of middle school students. Teen vaping rates are once again rising. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention believes that this is a signal that kids have returned to school and they are back to using e-cigarettes. These numbers confirm that the e-cigarette epidemic in our country is far from over, and our work has only just begun. On this slide here, you'll see specific data relating to electronic vapor products. I'll be using that simultaneously with the acronym EVPs. More than 2.5 million students currently use EVPs nationally. That is 1 in 4 students. The most common device type were disposables, and within the next couple of slides, we'll be talking to you about the evolvement of EVPs and what that looks like today. And approximately about 85% of those students out of the 1 in 4 have used e-cigarettes with a flavored product. This information is very specific, especially with our lens here, with this particular lens, with this committee. It talks about the use within subgroups. Current tobacco product use was higher among non-Hispanic American Indian or Alaska Native students, those identifying as lesbian, gay, or bisexual, those identifying as transgender, those reporting severe symptoms of psychological distress. If you compare the data with mental health, especially right after the pandemic, you'll see that the EVP use also rose, so that kind of goes hand in hand with what we're seeing with mental health, those with low family affluence, and those with low academic achievement. Again, an important part to note within our non-Hispanic Black students is that there is a high use of combustible tobacco product use, not necessarily EVPs. That includes cigar product use. For example, cigarillos and Black & Milds are very popular among our non-Hispanic Black students. So we do have some great news to mention within the state of Florida, and this is according to the 2022 National Youth Tobacco Survey. The nation increased by 16.67% with middle school and high school students using any tobacco product, while here in Florida, according to the 2022 Florida Youth Tobacco Survey, we had a 13.8% decrease of 11 to 17-year-olds who use cigarettes, cigars, smokeless hookah, and electronic vapor products. I want to highlight here that our program, the Tobacco Prevention Program, was highlighted from the Center for Disease Control for having a direct impact on these numbers that you see here across the state of Florida.
We're we're going to go through and look at the basic anatomy of an electronic vapor product, how they work. So these devices are designed to stimulate cigarette smoking and deliver an aerosol nicotine liquid. So most electronic vapor products are broken into three parts. And the first part is the rechargeable battery. Obviously, with our newer ones, they're not rechargeable any longer. And then we have the atomizer, which is the heating element or the heating portion of the e-cigarette that heats up the liquid. And in the third part, which is with the cartridge, is where you actually would put the liquid. And so those three parts in whatever e-cigarette or EVP that you would encounter, they might look different, but the basic anatomy is still the same. So then we get into the e-liquid part. So the e-liquid is what actually is the main character, as you would say, for the EVP. So the e-liquid is where you would have the flavor, the nicotine, and the smell. That's where all that is coming from. And that has flavoring, that has nicotine, that has glycerin, and also has propylene glycol. And all of those parts are heated into the EVP, and that is what the user would smoke and inhale into their bodies. A lot of students tell us and tell everyone that the e-liquid is just harmless. It is just water vapor. And as we can see here, glycerin is not water. Propylene glycol is not water. Again, this image is to denote in a simpler way what kinds of things are in this aerosol smoke that they smoke out when you use an EVP. Again, you have nicotine, you have volatile organic compounds, you have ultrafine particles that get stuck in your lungs, you have cancer-causing chemicals, you have heavy metals like nickel, tin, and lead, which are three things that should not be found in your lungs. And we also have diacetyl, which is found in all of our flavorings. So most of us have seen at least one of these types of electronic vapor products, and we break them in the industry by generations. So the first generation, we call those cigalikes, and we call them cigalikes because they look like cigarettes. They were first invented to look like a modern cigarette. The second generation, around 2015, we saw the rise of the pens, and these came with a USB charger that you would charge into your adapter, into your computer. The third generation we call mods. Those are the big bulky ones, and those were really popular around 2017. We have the fourth generation pods. This was the ever famous Juul and the Veuve. Those were probably one of the most popular versions of e-cigarettes, and because they were easy, they were sleek designed, they were rechargeable, they had all of these different flavors. And then the generation that we're in right now, which is the fifth generation, and we have disposables. These are one and done. You buy them, they're quite cheap, or they're cheaper than other e-cigarette, and you can buy them in many different flavors, and you use them once and you throw them away. However, we are seeing our students are tampering with these disposables and trying to make multiple uses out of them, which causes explosions and all sorts of harmful things.
All right, so hopefully we haven't put you to sleep already, but we're going to play a quick game called Can You Find It? So Josephine just went through the several generations of EVPs, and one of our main challenges here in Palm Beach County specifically is that many of our adults who support our students are unfamiliar with what is out there, and therefore, if you're in a common school setting, we don't really know what to look for. So I'm going to kind of challenge the committee for just a bit. If you have looked off screen, if you can redirect your attention back to the screen, I'm going to show you a quick desk, and I'm going to give you 15 seconds to count the amount of EVPs that you can find, again, within 15 seconds. Do not yell out your number. Do not put it in the chat until you have been asked to do so. And we're going to start that time in 3, 2, 1. You have about 5 seconds. And your time is up. So if you can, at this time, go ahead and put in the chat how many EVPs you were able to locate on a common school desk within 15 seconds. We can go ahead and do that now. How many items, the number, were you able to locate? And don't be shy. Thank you, Mr. Oswald. Let's put forward 4.
4.
Janina, Ms.
Lots of
Simmons.
fours.
Okay, all right, so we're pretty standard at around 4. Let's go ahead and find out how many are within that picture. There are actually, 13
Wow.
EVPs on that picture. I'm going to ask my wonderful partner if she could to just kind of explain to you some of the EVPs that are currently on the screen.
So some of these EVPs are things that we have encountered within our work. And we're gonna start right here on the very top. Right here is a Sharpie. This is something that we've seen where the students will hollow out a Sharpie marker, stick their EVP in it, and use the cap so no one would be any wiser. You would just think it's a regular Sharpie. Right next to it, we have the Vape Compact, and yes, it is a vape compact. So it looks like a regular pressed powder compact or mirror, but there is a mouthpiece right here, and you would add an e-liquid portion on the bottom. So when students open it, or so the user would open it, it looks like they're checking their face, but they're actually taking a hit. Right here, we have the modified inhaler, where we've seen students 3D print an inhaler or use an old inhaler and stick their e-cigarette in the larger portion of it and use that. We have the highlighter, which is just a highlighter with an EVP in it. Then we have just the regular pens. These are found in vape shops all around. We also have this. It looks like kind of a jewelry type whistle, but it's also an EVP. We have this can, which is, you can buy this on the market as is. It's just a can. It looks like it's a regular soda can with a metal straw, but it's actually an EVP. We also have the EVP watch, which blew my mind for the first time I saw that one. And it's just a regular Apple Watch or a smart watch, but the watch portion is removable and you can vape that. Then we have the vape hoodie, which is ingenious because it uses just something that students have on them all the time. The vape portion is right here on the string part of it. And so the students would inhale the vape or e-liquid from their string hoodie, and you would just think they're just chewing on the hoodie string. And when they pull open the neck portion, it's a little bit wider, so they can just kind of push in that aerosol and it wouldn't go all over the room they're in. We have the vape phone case. You can actually put your phone in the case. It just has an extra compartment for your vape. We have this one. This is modeled off a sleek designed highlighter or mouse, and you would remove that top portion and hit from that portion. Again, here's another one that looks like a USB, so you can kind of sneak this onto your keychain or your ID badge, thinking that it's just a USB that you're using for your work, but it's actually a vape. And this one also blew me, which is a cup. So just like the new Yeti and Stanley cups that are taking over, this is also a very popular cup, and you can vape from this portion, and this is your heating portion. So you would add your e-liquid in this portion right here, and you can still add liquid like water and juice and coffee, but you could also vape.
Yes.
Oh my God.
So while we find it ingenious, this is actually a very serious problem for our schools. They're called stealth products. They are available on the market right now for sale. And we have seen them in our schools across the state of Florida. They are easier to conceal because they look like regular student supplies. For example, one that we didn't have on that other slide was a whole backpack that has a vape inside of it. Again, many adults are unfamiliar with this new vape technology. They're still looking for the big mods and things that we showed you in further previous generations, but we have certainly stepped up our game in the sense of stealth products. And then just one thing to note, that there is hope. We do have professional development available where these products are introduced to adults that support children in our communities, in our schools, so that they're aware of what they're looking at, the dangers of them, but also how to speak to students about them. Outside of the dangers of the stealth products, one very important aspect of vapes are the flavors that have been added to them. 7 out of 10 middle and high school students who currently use tobacco have used a flavored product. If you have ever smelled a flavored vape, they smell outstanding. They smell like candy. In food items, a lot of them taste that way. I'm going to show you an example of that in just a second on the next slide. These are several e-liquid products that are out on the market that are marketed to look just like their food products, and they taste just like the food product. For example, if you look at Ready Whip, there's an e-liquid right next to it, looks just like Ready Whip and tastes just like it. All of us should be familiar with those lollipops, probably had too many at one point in time, with the several colors, and they're marketed that way. If you look directly to the left, there's an e-liquid that is marketed and designed to look exactly the same and taste the same. A very popular one in our schools right now is the Candy King e-liquid that tastes and looks like Sour Patch Kids. So these items are out there and available to our kids. No, they don't want to taste something, at least most of them, that tastes like cigarettes, but they do want to taste Candy King. So we have an uphill battle with what the dangers are versus what it feels like and what it tastes like for our children.
A new type of vape or EVP product that has come into the market and that we've seen is called the wellness, quote unquote, EVPs. And these are marketed towards our probably older students who are, studying, who need a boost. And we say, hey, if you want some vitamin B12, vape it instead of just taking it or intaking it with your regular diet. You want some more vitamin C, like a caffeine hit. You need to feel a little relaxed. Here's a EVP that has some melatonin. You need to focus for a test. Here's an EVP that'll help you focus. You need to you needed some power right before a sports game or before something that needs a lot of energy. Take a power EVP. So we are seeing, yes, we have the flavors. We're seeing a new shift into these wellness products, quote unquote, where we're trying to say that these products, although, they have all of these chemicals in them, but they're also really healthy as well. And it's sending a mixed message to our students, and it's really important that we share this information with all of our educators who take our courses. Just so that you're aware, we also are seeing tobacco use in general in Florida. It's not just EVP, and there are different types of tobacco if you're unaware. We're not going to go into too much detail, but right here we just have the loose chewing tobacco, plug tobacco, stuff, just dried tobacco that you can put in your mouth and chew or just kind of let it sit in your mouth. We also have snuff. Right here, they sell these. If you've ever gone into the gas station to pay for gas, you've seen those canisters in the back. Dry snuff, snus. We've also seen some dissolvable tobacco use, which is just, they look like mints, and you pop one open and you can put a cinnamon flavored nicotine mint. And they can still give you that nicotine hit that you need. And we're still seeing some of this usage, but not as high as EVPs, but we just wanted to make you aware.
All right, so very quickly, just some new research that is out there. 73.5% of students who use social media indicated that they ever see e-cigarette related content. That just means that they see it all the time. There are influencers that they love and they watch for things like makeup or food trends or fashion, and they're seeing their favorite influencers vaping all the time. Advertising expenditures peaked in 2018, 2019, followed by a steep decline in 2020, in early 2020. Josephine in a little bit is going to talk about some of the laws and policies that were introduced around that same time, which correspond with the decline in that advertising number. The most commonly used device type among middle and high school students are disposables. Those are the ones that they're manufactured to just throw away, but our students are, like she said, finding a way to hack it, and that's dangerous in our schools because they can cause fires. The most popular brands among youth were the Puff Bar, which you'll see at the bottom picture, And then there's a couple others that are very colorful, they taste very good, and that's what we're seeing, unfortunately, being flushed down the toilet in our schools.
And just to piggyback on the stealth advertising, I'm not sure if anyone has younger students who watch streaming shows on Netflix or Hulu. It's very subtle, but there are a lot of characters on these teen Netflix and Hulu and other streaming site shows, and these students or these young people who are in high school are vaping. And it's not telling them to vape, but it's very stealth and it's very tricky, but they are using streaming and getting around those different bans that we're going to talk about later to still show that young people can vape and look cool. So we're going to go through some of the health risks of nicotine. Again, it's also, before I start, it's also important to know that young people's brains are still developing, and they will develop to about the age of 25. So any substance that you add to the body will have a direct impact on their brain development and their health. So nicotine does affect heart rate. It does affect their rhythm, the heart rhythm, impairs dilation of blood vessels, can contribute to heart disease, raises serum cholesterol, can cause clot formations. Nicotine has been shown to impact attention, learning, mood, impulse control, as we saw in the video before. We also know that nicotine is addictive, and it's linked to the use of other tobacco products. If you can't hit your vape, but you still need that nicotine high or that nicotine hit, there are other nicotine products on the market that you'll probably veer off and start using. And some evidence, not too much since we're still learning about these links, do suggest that the use of nicotine does link to the use of alcohol and other illegal substances. Some of the withdrawal symptoms are irritability, restlessness, feeling anxious, feelings of depression, trouble sleeping, difficulty concentrating, craving more nicotine. So the withdrawal syndromes and the actual effects of using nicotine are very similar. And also, if you think about just being a young person in general, also similar. So we do have health risks of EVPs in general, not just in nicotine. So again, when you do use EVPs, there's the risk of nicotine addiction, use of lung damage. There is a story in one of our courses that we had personally got to hear firsthand, a student in Pinellas County who was using a vape, and the vape completely destroyed their lungs, and they had to have a double lung transplant at the age of 17. And it was really difficult to hear that because this was an athlete, and again, this was just a small device that caused so much damage for the rest of their lives. Again, EVPs can cause respiratory problems. Think about all of the different chemicals that are in these products. Of course, they'll cause respiratory issues. Different chemical exposures. We have students who are using those EVPs that they've tried to hack to make them use multiple times. They sometimes cause burns to their fingertips. They lose their fingerprints on their fingers because of these EVPs. And again, this is just stuff that we know now. We don't know the long-term effects of these products. We don't have the research for 20 years of use or 15 years of use. So if this is what we're seeing now, we can only wonder what can happen in the future. And about 5.6 million of today's youth under the age of 18 eventually will die prematurely from smoking-related diseases. This is smoking in general, not just EVP use. And that's about 1 in every 13 Americans aged 17 years or younger who are alive today.
So what are the root causes? The tobacco prevention team, through our research, both quantitatively and qualitatively, have kind of reduced it down to these 5 root causes. Aggressive marketing strategies, eye-catching designs and flavors targeting younger audiences, promotion through social media and influencers like we talked about a little earlier, misleading claims about safety compared to traditional cigarettes, and we highlight that word misleading very vigorously. Number 2, ease of access and affordability, availability of e-cigarettes online and in local stores. If you walk into actually just about any of our high schools, and you can go less than, I'll say, a mile or two, there are vape shops everywhere. And that has been in direct correspondence with the number of youth vapors that we've seen coming out of these schools. We believe that these vape shops have been very intentional about where they are placing their business. They are often cheaper than traditional cigarettes. You're buying one product as opposed to packs of products. There's discreet and they're easy to conceal, making them appealing to young users. As you can see, they're very trendy depending on the one that you get. Social influences and curiosity, peer pressure to try vaping, perception of vaping as trendy and cool. Yeah, kids think it's cool right now because on social media it's looked at as cool. The reason why cigarettes had a huge decline in the early 2000s was because we got the message out that it wasn't cool to smoke cigarettes. It smelled nasty, it tastes disgusting, and kids didn't see it as cool anymore. But kids see vaping as a cool thing to do, and that's why they're doing it. Curiosity about flavors and the act of vaping itself. Misconceptions about safety, huge. Belief that vaping is a safer alternative to traditional cigarette smoking. One, they love to say, oh, well, the data isn't out there yet. We do have some data, and what it's showing is not very comforting. Lack of awareness about the presence of nicotine and other harmful chemicals in e-cigarettes. And finally, inadequate regulation and policies. Insufficient or outdated laws and policies governing the sale and use of e-cigarettes. Josephine is going to talk about what those policies are and those laws in just a minute. There are a ton of loopholes in them. The companies are getting around them, and that is why they're making products that appeal to our children. One thing that we did want to piggyback on Mr. Oswald about in terms of other contributing factors was the facility cost to Palm Beach County specifically. From the kids flushing those vapes down the drain, we are at a deficit of approximately $116,000 and growing based on the damage that we're seeing done to our facilities within our schools.
And it's much higher now since we pulled this.
Yes. Also speaking of what is much higher now, this data for FY23, this was pulled in April. So the numbers have actually grown, but for the context of comparing FY22 to FY23, the comparison that I'm getting ready to provide still holds true. So you'll see that in FY22, there were 1,479 students offered one of the online courses for intervention. Out of that, 1,118 students completed it. Days that were saved by holding days in advance were 3,354 hours of instructional hours. We're very proud of that. We're keeping kids in classes and ensuring that they are learning, contributing to their academic success. Vape discipline referrals for FY22 were 1,761. In FY23, there was an increase in the number of students that were offered the course in terms of just overall numbers. It went up to 1,562. The number of students who completed the course were down in April, 1,071. The days saved were 3,481. And again, that number has grown exponentially since April. And the vape discipline referrals were 2,039. Our area of opportunity as a district was in those who were offered the course versus those who received discipline referrals. In FY22, percentage-wise, more students were actually offered the course compared to those who were given referrals. In FY23, that percentage declined. We actually offered less kids the course percentage-wise compared to those who actually had discipline referrals. So what have we been doing as a department? What have we been doing as an initiative? We offer webinars to the entire state of Florida, but specifically here in Palm Beach County. We've had them for our leaders. We have also been available at PLAs and in private meetings. We have created decision trees in which we've distributed to the entire county, to the district, in order to support letting kids know that this is an option for them and showing our administrators the map on how they can get there. So mandated student education. So the Florida Department of Education came out with new substance use and abuse health education standards, which requires school districts to annually provide instructions to students in grades K-12 related to youth substance use and abuse health education. You'll see a list of the district-approved programs to meet that mandate listed below. It's also important to know that our program has worked directly with the Department of Education to create a course. It's our 3-hour substance use and abuse course, which teaches educators in 3 hours all about these new health standards and shows them how to seamlessly incorporate it into their existing curriculum.
And it's also important to note that there has been some advances in the laws for youth access. Before, it was everyone under 18 was prohibited from buying or distributing tobacco products. In the past few years, we've increased that number to 21, with the exception of active duty military members. So if you are under 21 but you're enlisted, you can still buy tobacco. We do have possession laws also increased to the age of 21, so anyone under the age of 21 should not have these products in their possession. And again, we did add self-service into those laws because that was a loophole for a very long time, because there were self-service machines that you could buy all types of vapes and other flavored tobacco products, but because no one was technically selling those, young people were able to buy from those machines. But now with the new law, all of that has been restricted for anyone under the age of 21. So as we end our presentation, we want to say, what can the district do? So we've broken it down again into 5 different points. The first one, education and awareness, school policies, support and resources, monitoring and surveillance, and alternative activities, and parent community and engagement. So we want to make sure everyone's hands are in the work. We know that we have to be involved to fight this, because it's not just one company, it's a myriad of companies that are after our students. We also want to know that we have our educators, and yes, they can teach prevention lessons. We also can increase student clubs. There are some state clubs like SWAT, which are already here and they're available, and we can get our students in those clubs to be able to have that youth-led initiative, youth-led voice against EVP usage. And we want to equip our staff, equip our students, and we also want to provide addiction support, because a lot of our students are addicted to EVPs. We see it all the time. We have a portion in our course where the students can anonymously tell us about their experiences, and a lot of times they tell us, I'd like to stop, but I can't stop. So we want to make sure that those students who are at that point in their journey know that there are resources available in our community for free, and also online for free, that they can reach out to help them in their journey.
All right, so we have shared quite a bit with you. No, we did not go into the specifics of our program intentionally, as we are in the middle of a redefining summer, and we'll know what our program will look like more so within the next month. So our attempt today was just to educate you on what's out there and why we need to pay attention to it. And hopefully a few short weeks we can tell you a little bit more about what we plan to do about it. As we close today, I'd like to ask the committee if there is anyone who has a question or a wondering, anything that you're still thinking about, you still have a question about that wowed you, maybe a point that has stuck with you. If you could, you can go ahead and share that now. Feel free to type it in the chat or jump on the mic. We'd love to hear you.
Just an outstanding presentation. So I know we're going to lose a quorum pretty soon. So go ahead. Hands raised. We've seen some claps coming through on the presentation. Kimberly, you want to, Sun is creating a video as well about anti-vaping in LA. Charmaine?
Good morning. I thoroughly enjoyed the presentation. I'll be very brief. And this might be for staff side. How can we get this information out to parents? And I'm talking not through just SAC meetings, because I see sometimes we have these presentations to through the staff. How can we get this out in the community to our community leaders who have access to parents too? That may not necessarily be, at the school for a PTA meeting or a SAC meeting.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. We have this task force we put together on this, and one thing that the principals asked for are multiple ways to share this information with families. And you're correct, more than just for those who actually show up for a meeting, but other ways to push this out. So we are working on numerous ways. It's going to be a huge priority for me and the division next year around this, is to create a lot more resources for our principals to push this out, to educate. Because clearly, when you see this presentation, you're stunned, right? I mean, I feel like I was pretty versed in this, and I feel pretty ignorant after seeing this presentation about what I didn't know. So, and, the concerns that I think, and what I hear a lot from principals, is that parents are not taking this seriously, that they don't think there's actual health-related consequences for their children long-term, because when you see that you can get a boost of vitamin B12, well, heck, what could be that bad about it? Right. So we've got, and need everybody's help on this particular issue, and your agencies, and again, a lot of what this DDC committee is all about. So yes, Sherman, we're going to work on a lot on this space. Other questions, comments?
Thank you. Great presentation overall. Great presentation.
Now, I have a question. One of the things that come here is from the science side. Where's the FDA, on this side? Because obviously this is a very damaging, and if you compare smoking, you can see smoke going out, and you're going to be doomed. But the one when I get B12, nobody's going to know about it. So any idea what the FDA is doing on all this?
So there was a FDA ban on Juul and that particular form of EVPs. However, that ban was unsuccessful. It was probably banned for at most, I want to say, I remember the ban went into effect and we were rushing last summer, and we were rushing to put that into our courses. And by the time we started working on our courses, the ban had been revoked. So it is a huge corporation behind all of this. It's the money, money speaks, and these companies are making a lot of it, and they're lobbying. And so, it's really important for parents, communities, students to stand up and have that voice, because we don't want the vape companies' voices to be louder, because that's how that ban was revoked in the first place.
And to expound on that just a tap more, and specifically to the wellness EVPs, innovation with these EVPs has been staggering, and they have been happening very quickly. So unfortunately, the regulations have been very reactive and not necessarily proactive in what could be coming down the line. So the wellness EVPs actually, I believe, just hit this year. So therefore, the FDA hasn't necessarily caught up with the regulations necessary to control this just yet. We're still trying to control EVPs that came out a few years ago, regulatorily.
And it's just getting more and more difficult for our school administrators to police this, because they are, as you can see, hiding it in plain sight. Someone may have fresh breath and having realized it's not for the right reason.
Yeah.
So I don't mean to laugh, but it's a real challenge, and that's where we really need the entire community to come around this particular issue. Otherwise, we're going to face the health consequences in our youth in the near future. And as you can see, kids need double lung transplant. So I hope everybody sees the urgency around this. I'm not seeing any other hands raised, but I do hope that you take this seriously with your sphere of influence in your organizations to get this word out. We will get the presentation to you all, as well as additional marketing, materials to educate your communities out as well. And contact information for Jakira, and Josephine are there as well. Any other comments? Because I think Suzanne's about to probably leave. And if there's any other questions on this. Okay. And real quick before we lose quorum, we will set out a proposed list of dates for next year, and we'll put that in for the August meeting. And we'll send that out. Again, Josephine, Jakira, thank you. Outstanding job. Mr. Pagan, so we'll send that out for the next week. So I know we're going to lose quorum here in a second. So I don't know if there's any other.
Any other comment, any other question? So before we move to the next item, which is adjourning?
I do have a question.
Sure, please.
We are adjourning because we lose quorum. I thought we still can discuss items. We just couldn't put items on the vote according to Robert's Rule of Order. So it's a point of order, is what I'm asking.
No, I checked with legal. We can only have some quick informal brief updates, but no business.
Okay, I will send I will send something that is aside from this because that is not Robert's Rule of Order. And if we're operating under Robert's Rule of Order, that is a point of order, and that is incorrect. According to Robert's Rule of Order, we can still have business as long as that business does not consist of matters that would be brought up for a vote in future meetings. But there could be updates, there could be other relevant information that could be discussed. That is Robert's Rule of Order according to the parliamentarian procedure that's in front of me from Robert's Rule of Order. So I'll talk to you offline.
If you want to send that to me, and I'll be happy to share it with our legal department.
Absolutely.
For review.
Absolutely.
Thanks. See any hand raised.
And also, can our minutes reflect that point of order, please, Mr. Chair?
Thank you. Any other hands raised? Any questions? Comments? Motion to adjourn?
We did go through the agenda. Suzanne is still on, so I didn't know if there were anything, other general comments. Suzanne is still here. Yeah.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Need a second?
Second. I second.
Yeah.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you very much.
Aye.
And we're looking forward to have you all.
Thank you all. Enjoy your summers.
We'll see you in August. Thank you. Stay safe.
Thank you. Bye.
Have
Have a great summer.
I cross your fingers that the storms will not come this way.
Like hurricane season. That's what I'm talking about.
Right.
Be safe, everybody.
Thank
You too. Bye.
That was a great presentation.